This is Stirling Talks. Good morning, everyone. You just heard me chatting about our first guest here today. Dr. EmmaLucy Cole is here with me now. We're going to be talking. Honestly, these interviews that I do, I'm used to kind of having a little bit of familiarity with what the topic is. And we're going to kind of hit a little T.E. Lawrence and a little travel writing and all that. There's an event coming up in Glasgow later this month. And it's, well, the tagline is a bit of a hook, isn't it?
Yes, so it's talking about something called ethnic drag, which is a term that is quite a complex term, but it's basically talking about people who go abroad and wear the clothing of local indigenous people for a purpose. So this is not just your tourist going along and somebody local says, oh, hey, put on this thobe. This is actually somebody choosing to do it for marketing purposes.
Yeah. That's interesting. So we're not really talking about when I went to Texas, I got a cowboy hat. This is a little bit different than that.
It's different, but of course it's connected.
Yeah.
And these days, with the advent of social media and influencers, there's a lot of imagery that we're finding, and it's really changing the way people react to local communities.
Right.
So you might think it's harmless posting a picture of yourself in local dress, but context is everything. And it's the way that those images are used, and that's what I'm going to be talking about.
Context really is key, even more so these days with that. And speaking to that, in context of this, you spent quite a lot of time researching all of this and quite a lot of time on location, didn't you?
Yes. So about 15 years ago, I spent 2 years living with a Bedouin community in South Sinai, Egypt. I went to do research for 6 weeks and just didn't leave. Absolutely fell in love with the place. And it was economically in the UK, things were tough at that point. So it was a good opportunity to really learn about another culture. And while I was there, I witnessed many, many instances of Bedouin communities being misrepresented by national media across the world, as well as Egyptian media. And we would be literally seeing the reality of situations on the ground. My friends were involved in situations that were being discussed and seeing that it was just wrong. It was just misrepresented. So that inspired me to do the PhD.
That had to be a bit surreal, but also a bit awkward for you, because we're on the radio, people can't see you, but you would, we don't know, trying to find the words, you would stick out a little bit while you were there, I imagine. How was that for you? That had to be a couple of moments where you see some tourists doing something and you've been there now for quite a few weeks. That had to be a bit awkward sometimes.
Yeah, there was a particular moment where I was sat with a friend who he happened to be wearing traditional Bedouin dress. And the important thing to remember is that people choose what they wear when they get up in the morning. Sometimes they're wearing jeans, sometimes they're wearing the galabea or the thobe. So he was sat on the laptop and a tourist walked past and she stopped and took a photo of the Bedouin man on the laptop because this juxtaposition of tradition and technology for her was a surprise. But the way she did it without asking, just that he was a commodity to put on Instagram. Well, we just about had Instagram then. It really made me uncomfortable. Yeah. He was used to it, and it happened with many friends over there. Less so with the women friends I had because they were generally away from tourists. Yeah. So there were sort of gender disparities as well that I witnessed, and the way that tourists responded to that. So it all inspired me to find out more.
It is interesting now with traveling, and there's so many, people that travel and also travel influencers, I think, are, well, I'm not a fan of travel influencers because it's more like it feels very performative to me. Yes. But traveling is usually what you just sort of reminded me. I did spend a good bit of time in America, in the American West, and on one of the Navajo reservations over there, and the way they pictures and everything in the past. It was quite traumatic for them. But now with the modern things, they've asked, and just being aware of your surroundings, but also asking permission to do something, because this is their life. This is what they do. This is a real person here. So with that, it's no surprise that you kind of had that experience here. You mentioned a PhD. You've studied this here, and this event you've got coming up in Glasgow later in the month, it plays into that very well. What is this event about?
So the PhD was based on looking at literary stereotypes of Bedouin. So it's really important to mention that although I have lived with the Bedouin community, I'm not an ethnographer, I'm not an anthropologist, I study literature. So what I'm talking about is how we use words to describe people from other cultures, which obviously at the moment is quite a hot topic. And it's really important to understand this because we could say, T.E. Lawrence, it's more than 100 years ago, does it matter? Travel writers today, some travel writers today are perpetuating the same imagery, using the same words, the same language, the same phrases. If you look at any published travel writer, somewhere in the front of the book they'll say that they probably read Wilfrid Thesiger, Arabian Sands, which was sort of around the 1950s, and that inspired them as a child. And there's this long narrative of us building this image of Bedouin, of the desert, of Arabs as children. And what we see with a lot of travel writing is that image is actually perpetuated through to adulthood. And there's a really interesting bit about psychology that I'll talk about at the event, where if we have a stereotype inherent in our brain, in our memories, even if we see something that challenges that stereotype, our brain does not remember it. And you have to be so determined to challenge those stereotypes when you're experiencing the reality. My Bedouin friends, as I say, they wear jeans, they've got iPhones, they're on WhatsApp, they've got big trucks and running water. They're still very proud of their traditional heritage, but there's a diversity of experience there. And so many travel writers don't see it because their brains are literally hardwired to only remember the stereotype. So I'm going to be unpicking that a little bit. And really sort of looking at how T.E. Lawrence was a bit of a watershed moment where the Bedouin image was used to market his myth, him, as opposed to the culture.
This really is fascinating to me because over my last couple of years, we haven't really gotten into this much on the show, but I found myself over the last decade, especially during the pandemic, looking at things. I had lots of time to think, and looking at things that were in my head that my wife pointed out, saying, well, you're saying this because of this, and this doesn't match with this. And was there a watershed moment for you, to borrow your words, where you realized, oh, this is something I've been thinking, and this is different? You had to have a moment to kind of, at the start of this, with all of this, with the studies and all of this that you've done, where you caught yourself kind of going, hang on, was that kind of the spark moment that set you off on this journey?
I wouldn't say there was a moment. I think this has been a long time coming. So I've spent around 25 years, more than half my life, exploring, learning and listening to Arabic culture in various different countries and demographics. And my master's degree, I was looking at The English Patient by Michael Ondaatje. And within that book, and many people will have seen the film, but in the book there is a long section where he's rescued by Bedouin. And I explored the fact that these Bedouin are silent in his book. They have no speech. They have none at all. And that really fascinated me. Why would you have a group of people that don't speak? Now, Michael Ondaatje is actually a very anti-colonial writer, so there were reasons for that. But that sort of sparked my interest, and then totally randomly, friends of mine invited me to go to Egypt with them, and I met Bedouin communities and started to make the connection between the book and real life. So for me, it's been a long sort of 25 years of development to this point. And it's just become part of my life, my world, my interest.
This really is fascinating, and I think very needed these days. With you mentioned the world we're in today and all of this craziness here, to have a little bit more understanding, but also to understand, because we do so much. I feel like now, especially, and again with the pandemic, people are traveling so much more, I think, now because they couldn't for so long. So this really is some awareness here. What are you hoping that people kind of take away with them from this event that you have?
A greater capacity to just reflect. because it's been interesting since it's been advertised. There have been some comments inevitably on Facebook, and I've stopped looking now, but the initial comments, people were questioning, oh, well, I've been to this place and everybody was so hospitable and they dressed me up in their local clothing, and this narrative is just one thread of what's going on. And what we want to do is understand there are diverse experiences. There's a lot of nuance, and nuance is a word that's thrown around a lot, but it's true. For instance, the Bedouin community that I lived with are very, very different to their neighbours. So I lived with Tarabin, their neighbours, the Mazena, who own the land around Sharm el-Sheikh, where a lot of people have probably been, and probably gone into Bedouin nights in the desert. Culturally, the two communities are very, very different. So in Tarabin, the women are fighting to get education, and that's progressing, and that's amazing. And in Mazena, there is a woman who's a member of the Egyptian parliament. So, you know, we can't say that Bedouin culture is homogenous. There's massive diversity. So come along to the talk and learn some stuff you didn't know. Right. Because I forget that I'm probably the only person who actually knows all this stuff, and that people they're just not aware of it.
I do have to say, off air, we've gotten to know each other a bit, and I know that this for you personally is a bit of a moment, because you haven't done this in a while. You had a bit of a challenge, a bit of an injury here. Do you want to speak about that at all?
Yeah, so almost 4 years ago, I was working as a motorcycle adventurer. So I used the motorcycle, or was starting to use the motorcycle, to travel and research. And I was involved in an accident in Iceland, and it left me with a brain injury. So I managed to finish the PhD throughout that, which was incredibly tough. I can function, but I live with a barrage of symptoms, and probably always will. So it's learning to sort of manage that, be able to still do the research. I've had to learn to think in a different way, to research in a different way. I forget things, so I'm sat here with a page of notes because I know that things will just suddenly go blank. So it's been a real learning curve, and this is the first public lecture that I've given in 4 years. I did a couple of online conferences, but absolutely. And it's also my first in Scotland since we moved up 5-6 weeks ago. So I'm really excited that I've been invited to speak.
I think this is going to go very well for you, because we've talked about here on the show how my wife and I are still fairly new to Scotland and absolutely love it, and just the knowledge and just the people wanting to know more, but also just a very welcoming culture up here for the most part, except for on the Facebook comments. So with that, and with the injury in mind, I've interviewed a few people who've had similar experiences to that. And one thing they said is it gave them a little bit more of an appreciation for, other challenges that people have had. But they also feel that they've advanced a bit, because if this hadn't happened, you've had to figure out how to think in a different way. You've had to think about different things. How does that make you feel? It's a little bit of a different perspective for you, isn't it?
It is. I think one of the hardest things all the way through is that I'm somebody by nature, long before the injury, who figures stuff out. I get on and I fix, and I'm mostly pretty positive. And this has been something that I can't fix. And when people say to me, oh, but something good will come of it, my kickback on that is, if anything good comes from this, it's because I'm really stubborn. It's not because of the injury. I didn't need it to happen. I had a great career unfolding. I was busy, I was active, I had energy. I didn't get migraine attacks, I didn't have nausea. I don't need those things to make me more. However, I'm grateful that it's could have been a lot worse. I'm able to function 50% of the time. I'm learning a lot about my resilience, or my lack of resilience at times. And of course, it's opened up a whole new world of connecting with people that work. For instance, Headway charity, who kept me alive quite literally through the early stages. Understanding how they work with people and what those charities need.
You feel like the person And not that you're a completely different person, but with this experience here, do you feel like the person that you are now, you've given yourself a little bit of grace. You've given yourself a moment to pause. You've given yourself, do you feel like you've had to be a bit more patient, and you may not like it, but that perspective, and you may just cut yourself a little slack here, and give yourself a break a little bit, where you may not have done that before.
Yes.
And
yes.
I'm a person too, and I wouldn't like it either, but, there is something to be said for just, hang on, I'm going to give myself a break.
I'm still very torn on that.
Yeah.
Because I was somebody that was doing 20 million things at once, and I loved it.
Right.
I really loved it. Yeah. I'm still that person, but the symptoms prevent me from. Yeah. So there's a constant back and forth, and I haven't found that point of peace with it yet.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons that we came to Scotland, to have a fresh start. Yeah. To partly return to some roots, and to connect more with nature. Not that that's a cure, but being able to engage with nature a little bit more has helped. I mean, I lived in the countryside in Somerset, but it has given me a space to look at what's left, figure out how I can use what's left, to form some kind of life that resembles what I had planned.
I'll just say here, and again, you listen to two people here who we know are fairly new to the area. For me, when I'm having a day, I cannot tell you, just being able to walk outside here, and the air is just different here, and everything is, and I don't feel like some people. This isn't just for here, but for anywhere. When you're in a place for a long time, you don't really appreciate it. I walk outside and I see these hills, and it just hits me, the air and everything. So I'm very up on this area too, but also just that taking and I've said this before on the show. The moment for my wife and I when we went, wow, is this different, was something very small. Strawberries. We tried the strawberries, and we came from a place in America that was strawberry, they had a strawberry festival. Oh my gosh, the food here and everything is just the energy. So anyway, that's about me. So this event is coming up end of the month, right?
Yes, on the 25th, Saturday the 25th of, July, at 2 p.m. So it's an afternoon event, which is great for me. Yeah. It's about half hour, 40 minutes of me chatting, and I'll have lots of photos. And it's going to be very engaging and upbeat, and then an opportunity for questions. And the great thing about Pints of Knowledge is that it's in a brewery. You can sit with a pint or a glass, whichever you prefer, and have a snack and listen to some experts. I believe there's usually 3 people talking at each event. It's kind of a pub with a chat.
I love this, and I got to be honest, I wasn't aware of Pints of Knowledge. What a great name, and just what a great idea.
Absolutely.
Really works,
apparently it started in London during lockdown, where people were starved for conversation, but also wanted to kind of go down the pub, and combining it is brilliant. And now they're expanding. They've got Bristol, they've got Glasgow. I think they're starting Edinburgh soon. So it's really exciting to be at the forefront of their expansion.
We're going to have a link up on our social media to the event, and also to you as well. And I do hope that this goes well. And are you looking forward, not too far, but you're looking forward to maybe doing more of these in the future?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. I'm chatting a little bit to some people in the Stirling area, but I'd really, really like to get out and talk more. And of course, it's the research encompasses all sorts of stuff, from me living in Egypt to head injury. I'll talk about that resilience, to talking about stereotypes and travel writing and writing in general, because I was a university lecturer as well at the University of Bristol prior to the injury. So I'd love to get out and talk as much as possible.
Where can people find out more about your work?
So my website is my name, EmmaLucyCole.com. I am on social media, although due to the comments, I tried to sort of hide away a bit, but I am there. But the website's the best place to go.
And again, we will have that linked up for you, the website and everything on our social media. Thank you so much for this. This has been great. And then I'm excited to talk with you after the event and for the next event, and definitely get something going here in Stirling. That would be wonderful.
That would be brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Great, great stuff right here. Again, we will have that linked up for you. This is Stirling Talks.